We are live. Okay. We're gonna wait a moment to let everybody get in. It's 4:59. So I'm one of those people that I am always on time is not time, right? So what we're gonna talk about today, just to give you a quick intro, is definitely the cases for Donna Adelson, Tracey Grist, and a little bit Kouri Richins. And we're going to talk about those cases from a perspective of how can I tell myself no? How can I tell myself no? And that is so critical. So as people roll in and I welcome everybody, I just want to let you know that at the end of this, there will be information about a free um, gift that you can go out and it's connected to our wrong question, right response series I'm doing right now because that is imperative. Okay, so let's rock and roll as people come in. If you have questions and you want to provide information, don't forget to put your information in the chat. That's going to help us move forward. So, number one, y'all know I love one of my favorite cases is Kouri Richins, and now I'm picking up some others that are slowly becoming very engaging because of the fact that they're really coming from a perspective of um, not saying no, not saying no, and actually making decisions that impact the rest of our lives in such an adverse way from an emotional perspective. So, anyway, so the question that came in from one of the things that I do is wrong question, right response. One of my subs who I appreciate, she said, what's the procedure? How do I tell myself no? What are the steps? What are some of the things? And so I want to use those three cases and then come into a space to give you insight and information on strategic information to tell yourself no. To control where you are. So let's rock and roll. So the wrong question, right response is part of this. Now today I just want to talk about a simple word. It's two letters. The word has the power to protect our future, and that word is actually a complete sentence. It's N and an O. It's no. Okay. It has that kind of power. So the question is, how can I start telling myself no? Not from how do I tell other people no, which is a little bit different. How can I tell me no? How can I walk through that? Because sometimes that's not the easiest thing, because if we can't tell ourselves no, typically we have a disconnect telling other people no. And based on how you were raised and what your background is, no could be a difficult word to use, but it is one of the most powerful words that you can use to yourself as we move forward. So, as we and to explore that question, how do I tell myself no? We're going to look at the three cases, the headlines that we, not to judge them, not to criticize them, but to learn from them. And the headline surrounding what we're going to talk about today is Kouri Richins, Donna Adelson, and of course, Tracey Grist. Now, they're different stories. They're different circumstances, and they all have different outcomes. But I believe all three are relevant and with the same hidden lesson. And that's how I'm approach it. At some point, there was a conversation At some point, there was a decision. At some point, there was a moment where someone could have, I didn't say should because we don't should on ourselves, so could have paused and asked a better question. So let's start with Kouri. The one thing that stood out publicly, and especially for me, was the purchase of the expensive luxury property and the financial pressure that reportedly followed. So that was like the straw that literally made everything come down. Well, her decision did, but that was additional pressure. So she didn't tell herself no. See, most people ask this question: why would somebody buy something they couldn't comfortably afford? Now, we're talking about a multi-million-dollar property, right? Sometimes we talking about a purse. Sometimes we talking about something we're doing personally, right? And even though that's not what this case was about, it wasn't about purse. It was bigger than that, about the property, and it was about the financial pressure. We can make decisions that will cause us to be under financial pressure as well. And sometimes it's little things. I think truly asking why would someone do that to themselves is actually the wrong question. The question I would like to couch regarding this is, what desire became more important to her than the wisdom she could have used to say no? Because nobody forced her, nobody tied her up. She did this, right? And I'm not talking about what she was convicted of. I'm talking about she bought the property. Now, other people, everything about that property, say it was screaming in my head, no. I mean, the information that came from the research that was done, the fact that a multi-millionaire had let the property go, that someone else had come into the property, all those things should have been flags, red flags, stop lights, all of that for her to say no. But so it's not just about why did anybody do that, make that decision? It's what desire, what underneath, what was the underneath issue that really became more important than the wisdom? Because almost everybody says, I'm going to create a financial, almost nobody. Who says, you know what? Today, I'm just bored and I'm going to create a financial pressure today that's going to cause me to make a really interesting decision in my future. Nobody does that. Nobody does that intentionally. Instead, they say this: I deserve this. I can make it work. Everything will be fine. Isn't that wasn't that her personality and her attitude? Like, I can do it. I'll figure it out later. The issue wasn't the property. The issue was the conversation. The moment where she said, yes to something she could have actually said no to. Not now. Not yet. Not until I'm ready. She could have taken a pause. Now, just let's take a moment with Donna Adelson, which is a different situation, but still connected. Many people see a story about control, wanting things to go a certain way, wanting outcomes to align with her personal preferences. The wrong question: how did things get so out of control? That's the wrong question. The better question, the right response: what happened? What happens when we cannot accept the outcome we don't like? had to pause there, y'all. I wasn't frozen. What happens when when I cannot accept the outcome of something I don't like and I don't want to happen? And that was the disconnect. Because all of us have been there. All of us have said that about something, whether it be a relationship, a family situation, a business situation, a church situation, a friendship. When something doesn't go our way, the way we want, the real question becomes, can I tell myself no? That's not what happened. Okay, it's a no. And then move on to make a different decision, not to make it happen, not to force it to happen, not to take control. She couldn't tell herself no. Can I, and the underneath question is, can I tell myself no when I want to control something I cannot control? And usually that's connected to another person, another situation, something outside of our, I call it the locus of control. This is I have a locus that I can control, my space, right? The things I can do, the things, all of that. But then there's a locus that I do not have control over. The economy and things like that, I don't have control over those things, but I can react in a way that I need to get through whatever the situation is. And that's key. Now let's talk just a moment about Tracey Grist. So as y'all look at this, if y'all have questions regarding this, remember that you can always put something in the comment section, because when you're subscribed, you can like and share this. More than anything, it's about when you look at it, if you have questions about something particular, you can either DM me or you can always put it in the comment section. So for Tracey Grist, for me, this one is deeply connected to identity. The wrong question most people would have is, how do people make decisions that destroy their reputation? Now, the same thing happened literally in all three areas. And actually, it impacted families. It impacted last names. Because when you hear Richins now, because they were very well known. So there's some dynamics to that. So it's, how do people make decisions that destroy their last name, destroy their reputation? The better question, what happens when image becomes more important than identity? So when we look at Richins, Kouri, this one is, to me, is one of the ones besides Tracey's. This is one too that talks in my head about her image was more important than what she or who she thought she was. Because if she believed really who she thought she said, or what she said, who she said she was, she wouldn't have had to do all this, like bam, 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 get all in debt and do all of that. So that is the disconnect. The disconnect happens when image becomes more important than identity. Now, I'm going to put it in our world. What happens to ourselves when we end up buying, eating, doing something, or not eating, taking something, doing something that is adverse to who we say we are? I'm not talking about body shapes or shape. That's not it. Because all of us look fine. All of us are bold, brave, and brilliant. That's not an issue. However, is that the way we feel about ourselves? Or do we need something externally that says, this is who you are? because you're carrying this, because you're doing this, because you're owning this. Is that where we get our identity from? And that's dangerous. The danger is not wanting to be successful. The danger is not wanting more. The danger is not wanting to live a certain lifestyle. If that's what you want. The danger is not knowing who you are without the lifestyle, without the success, without the outside influence, other people's opinion, without. That's where the danger is. See, the danger is not wanting the money. Like I said, the danger is pretending. The danger is protecting appearances while sacrificing integrity. See, there's wasn't an issue, or the word no wasn't to success. The word no, when we tell ourselves no, is not that we don't deserve the item. We're saying not now. That's not the issue. The no was to pretending. The no was having the thing become our identity, and that's why we can't tell ourselves no. So if that's where a person is, that can be the downfall of a decision or an issue with telling ourselves no. So what I want you to do is notice something. Even though all three headlines are different, all three stories are different, all three circumstances are different, but the same lesson. A private conversation, a private decision, a private opportunity to say no. And that's where, hey Nina, and that's where most of us live. Not in the headlines, in the conversation. So how do we do it? How do we tell ourselves no? How do we actually tell ourselves no? How do we live with that and know that it's not from a place of lack, but from a place of decision, a place of power and control? This is where I want to give each of us a practical tool. They call it 99, and I'm going to say 0.3. Okay, so if you write 99.3, and this is how we're going to talk about it. And this is a tool you can use anywhere for anything. For people who sometimes get triggered on something, this will help you with that. For people who have difficult opportunities to control their emotions, or even to sometimes be quiet, when conversations are happening and you just need not to be the first one to say something, 99.3 will help you. Okay, so let's roll in this. So do a 90-second pause. And there's a book called The Power of a Pause, but do a 90-second pause. I'm not telling you to count to 90, just do a 90-second pause. While you pause, to help you move through that, do 9 slow breaths. You don't have to look like you're holding your breath. Nothing interesting, y'all. Just make it simple. Do 9 slow breaths during the 90-second pause. And then ask yourselves, this is the 0.3, 3 questions. And this will help you not be emotionally activated. The first question, and I wrote them down. Here we go. And the first question that you want to ask yourself for the 0.3 is this actually important? The second question is, what part of this can I control? The third question is, what protects my future? What response protects my future? Okay. And when you go through those three questions, it's going to make a huge difference. Now, this is the way it is. The first thought that normally comes to our head is from an emotional perspective. The second thought that normally comes to our head is logical, right? We try to build logic in it. But the third thought, when we take just another moment, usually drives up intentionality. And intentionality is where we want to be. And that's where the power is. So the next time you're about to send a text, the next time you're about to react, pause for 90 seconds. Take 9 slow breaths, then ask yourself the 3 questions. I'm going to go over them again. Is this actually important? Question 2. What part of this can I control? And question 3. What response protects my future? And by the time you get to the third question, you're here in your frontal cortex. In your frontal cortex, the way your brain works, it helps you for future thinking. That's your thinking brain, not your reacting brain. Your thinking brain. And by being up there, by being in your thinking brain, you make better decisions. Those decisions will help protect your future. Okay? So because, like I said, the first thought is usually emotional. The second thought, we react, right? We buy it. We say it. We do it. Let's talk just for a second about saying it. Words are something we cannot take back. Have you ever heard somebody say something to you and they say, "Oh, I'm sorry," like that made it right? Or that made it like you now are supposed to wipe it out and never remember it? That's difficult, because once you say a word, something happens in the atmosphere. So be careful what you say. It says life and death is the power of the tongue. Our tongue is extremely powerful, and the words we say from it makes a difference. So we defend ourselves. We prove your point. The first thought is emotional. We pause. The second thought becomes logical. Now sometimes I can be a little too logical because that's where my brain typically goes. We begin to think though. We begin to calculate. We begin to evaluate consequences. But don't stop there, because the third level is where wisdom lives. It's intentional. It's not emotional. It's not illogical. It's literally intentional. And that's where we want to make our decisions. So if you're looking to make a decision in your life, to say yes or no, and especially no. How do you say no to yourself? Through these steps. Take a moment to breathe. Walk out of the store. I have done this, especially if you have purchase power. I leave my wallet in the car, or if I'm going somewhere like I like thrift garage selling kind of thing, I'll put a certain amount of cash in my pocket. And I said, okay, you have to leave here and go back to your car if it's worth that. If it's worth going back to your car. And on the way to the car, I'm literally walking through this process. Is it worth it? Is it something that's going to add value? I'm asking myself questions. I'm thinking for a moment to get from the emotional to the looking at the logical part, and then say, how does it add value to your life? How does it impact your future? And if you do that in every area of your life, even in relationship, it will make a difference. Because yeah, he or she may be fine. But how does that person look in your future? I'm not going to touch that. That's not why I'm here today. So here's the truth. Every healthy no creates a greater yes. When we say no regarding our time, we say yes to something else. When we say no regarding our funds, our resources, whether it be our talent, our time, our money, anything, we're saying yes to something else. We're leaving room for a yes. But when we say yes to everything, then we can get overwhelmed easily. So when you say no to an impulse, imagine the greatness and the freedom that will provide you. When we say yes to peace, no to unnecessary debt, then we're saying yes to freedom. No to image, to somebody else's opinion, to somebody else's whatever they're thinking, then we're saying yes to our integrity, to our character, to our future. No to control means yes to a healthy relationship, not only to others, but to ourselves. When I say no to control, when I am willing to tell myself no, I build a healthy relationship with me. Because if I don't have a healthy relationship with me, probably don't have a healthy relationship with a lot of other people. So no to immediate gratification is yes to long-term success. No to being fragmented is yes to alignment. No to one thing leads for an opportunity to say yes to something else. And sometimes in life we can do and instead of or. And then sometimes in life we can say no to neither, not now, and some things are not ever. The one thing you don't get back, thinking about those cases, one thing you don't get back is once you have made a decision of the magnitude that they have made, you don't get a chance to redo. The impact and the detriment that you've made in other people's lives is lasting. So the thought that I would like to leave at this moment is this: one decision can change your life. The purchase you didn't make, the argument you didn't start, the shortcut you didn't take, the relationship you did not enter, or the relationship you came out of, the lie you didn't tell, the impulse you didn't follow. Every headline that we listed here began with a private conversation. Every private conversation contained a decision. Every decision contained a moment. And every moment where someone could have literally paused, asked a better question, and perhaps told themselves no. The question isn't, how did they get there? The question really is, what conversation am I having with myself today? Because your future is being shaped, is being molded, is being transformed by the conversations you're having with yourself right now. See, that's the only person we don't get a chance to run away from. That's the only person that every day, I get a chance to hang out with me. Every day. And some days I get on my own nerves. Some days I be like, what are you doing? It's okay. Give yourself grace, get up, and move forward. And just remember, seriously, your future is being shaped right now, in this moment, in this decision. And sometimes the most powerful word we can say is, that's right, no. So what I'm going to do is I have like I said, I have a document. Let me get to it. And it's on the bottom of the thing now. And it's really a lead magnet. I think it's 15 pages or 21 about a better question reset. And that's just something that I'm going to put in the comments so that you can get a copy of it. And let me tell you why this is so important. Because I used to ask myself questions like, why not me? What's wrong? Why do I always? Those were the wrong questions. Because they caused my brain to look for those responses to that question I'm asking it. So when we set ourselves up to look for something negative, our brain to look for something negative, we see negativity. However, when I do right response is, in this moment, what can I control? How does this impact my future? That's from a different perspective. That's from an empowering perspective. And in this thing that I'm doing with wrong questions, right responses, is really to help each one of us, including me, become better about making decisions and looking at life from a different perspective. And when I say that, in the middle of chaos, in the middle of everything that's happening, and something will always be happening, instead of giving someone outside of me control, I decide and get a chance to control. I get a chance to make decisions. I get a chance to, whether it be wear a tie or wear funky glad, I get a chance to be me. So I want to encourage you to be you, to take some steps beyond where you are today, to be the best person you can be in the moment, to give yourself a pause and to empower yourself to the next level because you deserve it. Saying no is not a negative word. Saying no says that you have self-discipline, you have self-awareness, and you are empowered. Now, remember, at any time you can go out and also get the identity first piece that we did. Action, identity decides before action begins. Now, when you look at these two pieces, and both of these are complementary to you, remember that you have to do the work. Look, if you have figured out a way to let somebody else do the work and I get the results, I'm just saying. And I want to do that in the area of somebody else working out for me. However, I've tried this for quite a few years, guys. When I do the work, I get the benefit. Do the work, and I realize that I have more control in my life, that I get a chance to control income. I get a chance to control my spending and what I buy and how I look. I get a chance to shift and change and adjust. Take advantage of it. Enjoy it. Enjoy your life. Don't always look at what you don't have. Look at who you are, whose you are, and that the greatness that you have within you is power and might. Don't forget that ever. So I am Johnny. I am known as the Mindset Maven, helping you bridge the gap between what you know and what you do. And that gap is identity, but even deeper, it's actually action. So what are you going to execute from here? What are you going to look at in your life to make a difference? Because know this, every decision starts with you. Look at the things you can control and rock it. Okay? So I am going to end unless there's questions in the comment section. Listen, I appreciate y'all being on. Don't forget to mention comments. Don't forget to like, share. Don't forget to just subscribe. I am almost at 500. I think I'm 20 people from 500, and I'm excited about that. But more importantly, I'm excited about sharing and the opportunity to share here. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you soon.